Imagine you're halfway through a red-eye. Your eyelids feel like they weigh a ton. And suddenly, both pilots nod off simultaneously for nearly half an hour. That exact scenario happened in January 2024 on a Batik Air flight, triggering a veer-off course while on board 153 passengers. And it all came down to fatigue mismanagement. Tonight, we're cutting to the real risk. Fatigue isn't theory, it's a stealth killer in the cockpit. Our mission: equip you with the science, the tools, and the exact protocols to manage fatigue before it manages you. Stay sharp. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe now, you won't regret it. Welcome, I'm your host, the Captain, and joining us today is a leading expert in fatigue management. It's really great to have you here to talk about this.
Thanks for having me. It's definitely a critical topic, one that deserves serious attention.
Absolutely. And I think that Batik Air incident you mentioned, the A320 back in January, it just drives the point home, doesn't it?
It really does.
153 passengers on board. ATC loses contact. And it turns out both pilots were asleep for 28 minutes. That's
right.
It's hard to even process.
It is. 28 minutes is an incredibly long time in aviation terms. The aircraft overflew its destination, just drifting on autopilot. It sounds unbelievable, but it happened.
And the captain wakes up, gets the first officer with to get back on course, eventually landing safely. But they initially reported a radio problem, right? Which just highlights the difficulty sometimes in acknowledging the real issue.
Exactly. It shows how fatigue can creep in and maybe the reluctance sometimes to address it head on. But the core issue is clear. Pilot fatigue is a tangible risk, not just feeling tired.
It's a killer hiding in plain sight.
And it's not just that one flight. If you look at the numbers, fatigue is cited as a factor in something like 4 to 7% of aviation incidents and accidents.
4 to 7%. That's significant.
It is. And over a 16-year period, studies linked it to around 250 fatalities in air carrier operations. We're talking about serious errors here. Missing checklist items, busting altitudes, lining up on the wrong runway, landing without clearance, unstable approaches. The list goes on.
So it's way beyond just yawning in the cockpit. It actually impairs performance in concrete, dangerous ways. You mentioned comparing it to, well, being impaired in other ways.
That's the comparison that really hits home, I think. Research shows that being awake for 18 hours impacts your cognitive performance similarly to having a blood alcohol concentration, or BAC, of 0.05%.
0.05.
Okay, now push that to 24 hours awake, and your impairment level is comparable to a 0.10% BAC.
0.10. That's above the legal limit for driving in most places, let alone flying.
Precisely. We'd never dream of letting a pilot fly with that level of alcohol. Yet, severe fatigue can produce a similar level of impairment. We have to treat fatigue with that same level of seriousness.
That comparison is stark. So let's dig into the science a bit. Why are we so vulnerable? What's happening biologically?
It really boils down to our fundamental biology, primarily our circadian rhythms. Our bodies have internal clocks that are hardwired for sleep at night and activity during the day.
The body clock.
Exactly. And there's a specific period, usually between about 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. local time, called the window of circadian low, or WOCL. That's when our alertness naturally plummets. There's also a smaller dip in the mid-afternoon, around 3 to 5 p.m.
So flying overnight or even late afternoon.
You're essentially fighting your own body's programming. You're asking your brain to perform complex tasks precisely when it's biologically programmed to wind down. It's a constant battle.
And then you layer jet lag on top of that.
Right, desynchrinosis. Crossing time zones throws that internal clock completely out of sync with the local environment. Your body might think it's 3 a.m. when it's actually noon where you've landed.
How long does that take to sort out?
The rule of thumb is roughly 1 day per time zone crossed. But for significant shifts, it can honestly take 2 or even 3 weeks for your body to fully adapt its rhythm. Until then, you're dealing with disrupted sleep, feeling groggy at odd times. Basically, your body and the local clock are out of phase.
And this fatigue, it adds up. Right? You can't just ignore a few bad nights.
Absolutely not. That's the difference between transient fatigue, feeling tired after one late night, and cumulative fatigue. Cumulative fatigue builds insidiously over several days or trips with consistently insufficient rest. Maybe you're getting only 4 or 5 hours of sleep night after night.
You think you're coping,
But you're accumulating a sleep debt. And the critical thing to understand is that you cannot overcome cumulative fatigue with willpower or caffeine alone. It doesn't work. The only cure is adequate recovery sleep and proper time off. You have to repay that debt.
So toughing it out is actually dangerous.
Extremely. Yeah. And when you reach that state of deep fatigue, your brain can start doing something really unnerving. Microsleep.
Microsleeps, like nodding off for a second.
Exactly. Brief involuntary lapses of consciousness, maybe just a few seconds long. Sometimes your eyes might even stay open, but your brain has momentarily checked out.
That sounds terrifying on approach.
Think about it. Descending on a 3-degree glide path at, say, 250 knots, a 1-second lapse means the aircraft travels about 400 feet with effectively no one actively flying it. A few seconds. Well, the consequences could be dire. And these microsleeps become much more frequent during the WOCL or when you have significant sleep loss.
Okay, so actual sleep lapses are one thing. But even short of falling asleep, how does fatigue mess with our heads when we think we're still functioning?
It degrades performance across the board, often subtly. Your reaction time slows down. You can get tunnel vision, focusing only on one thing and missing other cues. Thinking becomes, well, kind of muddled.
Muddled, like making simple mistakes.
Yes, memory issues are common. You might correctly read back an ATC instruction, but then forget it moments later. Or skip an item on a checklist you've done hundreds of times. Your problem solving becomes rigid. You might stick with a plan even when circumstances change. Or you might become overly cautious and hesitant.
And judgment too, I imagine.
Definitely. Impaired judgment is a huge factor. You might take risks you wouldn't normally take, or conversely, be unable to make a necessary decision. Your overall situational awareness narrows significantly. It's like your brain just doesn't have the bandwidth to process everything effectively.
And the really scary part you touched on earlier.
The scariest part, honestly, is how poor we are at judging our own fatigue. You can feel relatively alert, even confident, right before your performance tanks or you experience a microsleep.
Like that NASA study.
Exactly. Pilots in a simulator reported feeling fine, feeling sharp, just 6 minutes before they involuntarily fell asleep. So relying purely on how you feel can be incredibly misleading and dangerous. Your subjective sense of alertness isn't a reliable gauge when you're truly fatigued.
Wow, okay, so if we can't always trust our gut feeling, what practical tools or checks can pilots use? How can you get a more objective sense of where you stand before a flight?
This is where personal vigilance and standardized tools are key. It starts with the IM-SAFE checklist: illness, medication, stress, alcohol, fatigue, emotion eating. That F for fatigue isn't just a suggestion.
It needs to be a hard stop.
It absolutely does. Before every single flight, you have to ask yourself, honestly, am I too tired to fly safely today? Treat that question with the same gravity as asking if you've had too much to drink or if you're feeling unwell. If the answer is yes, or even maybe, you need to address it. It's about professionalism and safety culture.
Okay, IMSA is the foundation. But are there ways to maybe quantify that feeling of tiredness?
Yes, subjective scales can be very helpful here. Two common ones are the Samparelli or SP scale and the Karolinska Sleepiness Scale, KSS.
How do those work?
The SP scale is a simple 7-point scale. 1 is fully alert, wide awake, and 7 is completely exhausted, unable to function effectively. Scores of 5, 6, or 7 are serious red flags indicating likely performance impairment.
Okay. And the KSS?
The KSS is a 9-point scale, more focused on your immediate feeling of sleepiness. 1 is extremely alert, 7 is sleepy but no effort to stay awake, and 9 is extremely sleepy, fighting sleep. Getting up into the 7, 8, 9 range on the KSS is critical. It means you're really close to those microsleep. They're quick tools you can use right then and there.
So scales help quantify the feeling. What about objective measures? Anything that shows how your brain is actually performing?
There are tools like the Psychomotor Vigilance Test, or PVT. It's essentially a simple reaction time test, often available as an app. You press button when a stimulus appears, usually a light.
Like a quick game?
Sort of, but it's very sensitive to fatigue. It measures your reaction speed and, crucially, the number of lapses times you either miss the stimulus or react very slowly. A high lapse count on a PVT is a strong indicator of fatigue impairment. You could use it pre-flight or even during a quiet cruise phase as a self-check.
Interesting. So we check ourselves, but what about looking out for our crewmate and managing the actual cockpit environment?
Crew resource management, CRM, is vital here. You need to be looking for signs in each other. Is your colleague yawning excessively? Are their eyelids drooping? Are they rubbing their eyes a lot, maybe getting irritable or forgetting things? Long blinks are another subtle sign.
So you see something? Say something.
Absolutely. Gently. Some airlines even incorporate routine, non-judgmental alertness checks into procedures, like just asking, hey, how are you holding up during cruise? It opens the door for honest communication.
And the environment itself? Can you make the cockpit less sleepy?
Definitely. A warm, dark cockpit is an invitation to nod off. So countermeasures include turning up the lights, bright light, especially bluish light if you have it, helps suppress melatonin and signals daytime to your brain.
Cooler temps too.
Yes, lowering the temperature a bit can help maintain alertness. Use the air vents. Avoid long stretches of silence during low workload periods. Engage in light, non-distracting conversation. Maybe review some procedures aloud or discuss upcoming flight phases.
Keep the brain engaged.
Exactly. And don't underestimate simple physical activity. Even just doing some shoulder rolls, neck stretches, flexing your arms and legs, or standing up for a moment if possible can help break the monotony and boost alertness temporarily.
Those are good practical tips for the cockpit. Now, stepping back a bit, how does the system, the airlines, the regulations, help manage fatigue? We hear about FRMS.
FRMS, or fatigue risk management systems, are a big step forward. Instead of just relying on rigid flight and duty time limits, FRMS uses scientific principles and operational data to manage fatigue risks more proactively and flexibly. It allows for smarter scheduling based on predicted fatigue levels.
And things like extra crew members.
Right, for ultra-long-haul flights, using augmented crews, 3 or 4 pilots allows for scheduled rest breaks and dedicated bunks, which is obviously very effective.
What about naps in the cockpit itself? Is that a thing?
It is under specific protocols. It's called controlled rest on the flight deck, or sometimes cockpit napping. Many regulators and airlines outside the U.S. allow it during low workload crew spells.
How does that work safely?
There are strict rules. Only one pilot rests at a time, usually for a pre-agreed period, like 20 to 40 minutes. The other pilot must remain fully awake and vigilant, assuming all monitoring duties. A timer is set for the nap.
Does it actually help?
Research, including studies by NASA, shows it can be very effective. A short nap, even 20-something minutes, can significantly improve subsequent performance and alertness. It's a powerful fatigue countermeasure when used correctly. Though it's worth noting the FAA currently prohibits it for Part 121 carriers in the U.S.
Interesting. So these systems exist, the science is there, but you mentioned earlier that pilots are often hesitant to actually report being fatigued. Why the silence?
Yeah, that's a huge cultural hurdle we still face. Surveys consistently show high rates of underreporting. Sometimes 70 or 80% of pilots admit they've flown while fatigued but didn't report it.
Why not?
Several reasons. Sometimes it's just being too tired to file the paperwork after a long, draining trip. But often it's fear. Fear of being stigmatized, labeled as weak or unable to handle the job. Fear of potential repercussions, even if regulations technically protect them. There can also be a sense of futility, a belief that reporting won't lead to any changes.
The old tough it out culture.
Exactly. That macho attitude that suggests real pilots just push through. It's incredibly counterproductive and dangerous. We need to foster a just culture where reporting fatigue is seen as a responsible safety behavior, not a sign of weakness.
How to beat there?
It requires commitment from everyone. Regulators need to enforce protections like AFAR Part 117 in the U.S., which prevents punitive action against pilots calling in fatigued. Airlines need to genuinely treat fatigue reports as valuable safety data, analyze the trends, and make meaningful changes to schedules or procedures based on that data. When pilots see their reports lead to positive changes, trust builds, and reporting increases. Some airlines have seen significant drops in fatigue-related errors by doing just this.
So it's about building trust and showing that reporting matters.
Yes, and peer support is crucial too. Pilots need to encourage each other to speak up and support colleagues who make that call. Admitting you're too tired isn't weakness, it's professional risk management.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So let's bring it all together. For the pilot listening right now, what's their personal playbook? What are the absolute must-do tactics to manage fatigue effectively?
All right, let's get down to brass tacks. 10 key things you can do. 1. Honest pre-flight check. Really use IMSAFE. Don't gloss over F. Use those scales, SP or KSS, to get a number on how you feel. If you're scoring high, tell scheduling early. Calling in fatigued is a safety call, period. Support your crewmate if they do the same.
Be honest with yourself and the system. Got it.
2. Optimize your sleep hygiene. Become what some call a sleep athlete. Make your sleep environment sacred. Dark, cool, quiet. Use eye masks, earplugs, whatever works. Try to bank sleep before demanding trips. Stick to a regular sleep schedule as much as possible. Watch the heavy meals, intense exercise, and alcohol. Close to bedtime, they disrupt sleep quality.
Treat sleep like training. Makes sense.
3. Strategic caffeine use. Caffeine is a tool, not a substitute for sleep. Time it right. It takes 20-30 minutes to kick in. Maybe use it before top-up descent on an early arrival. Avoid it before planned rest. Try the caffeine nap, coffee. Then a quick 20-minute nap. You get a double boost.
Smart. Use it wisely.
4. Control your cockpit environment. We talked about this. Bright lights, cooler temps, air vents. Stay engaged with light conversation or system reviews. Do those stretches. Keep moving periodically. Fight the monotony.
Actively manage your workspace. Check.
5. Use controlled rest, if allowed and safe. Don't be afraid to use this tool if it's available. Communicate clearly with your crewmate. Follow the procedures precisely. Even 15-20 minutes helps. But crucially, allow time to fully wake up afterwards, deal with that sleep inertia before taking back critical tasks.
Okay, use the nap strategically.
6. Smart diet and hydration. Stay hydrated with water. Avoid sugary drinks that lead to energy crashes. Opt for lighter, protein-rich snacks throughout the duty period for stable energy. Some pilots try to align meals with destination time zones to help adaptation.
Fuel yourself properly.
Right. 7. Exercise in daylight on layovers. When possible, get outside in daylight. It helps reset your circadian clock. Light exercise, like a walk or jog, can boost energy and improve sleep quality later. Just avoid intense workouts too close to bedtime.
Use layovers to recover and adapt.
8. Optimize circadian alignment. For regular routes, learn what works for you. Consider strategies like timed light exposure or maybe melatonin with guidance. Follow any airline-provided jet lag plans. Be proactive about managing your body clock.
Be aware of your own rhythms.
9. Leverage crew resource management. Talk openly about fatigue levels. Coordinate breaks or high workload periods. Use verbal cross-checks frequently, especially when tired. Discuss fatigue mitigation in briefings. Make it a team effort to compensate for individual fatigue.
Work together as a crew.
Yep.
Vital.
And 10. Know your limits and plan ahead. Learn your personal fatigue triggers. Maybe it's that third early start or a specific type of rotation. Plan accordingly. Use your leave proactively. If you feel fatigue creeping up in flight, take immediate action, use countermeasures, ask for help, use ATC delays if needed. Use your authority as PIC to manage the risk.
Know yourself, plan ahead, and act decisively. That's a powerful list.
It's about taking control of what you can control.
Let's close the loop. Those pilots who nodded off, they weren't careless. They were chronically tired. Fatigue is stealth, systemic, and until we treat it like a fighter threat, it will win. Tonight, you've learned how to detect, assess, and counter fatigue proactively, from MSAFE and napping protocols to FRMS principles, though we focused on what you can do. Now here's your challenge. In your next shift, run a fatigue self-check before stepping in and log it, even if it's just internal. Build that muscle.
Thanks so much to our fatigue management expert today for sharpening the edge on this. Really valuable insights.
My pleasure. Stay safe out there. If you found this briefing vital, subscribe and get these tactics delivered straight into your comms feed.